It's my birthday month. I'll be 44 in a few weeks. And I thought, what better way to bring in 44 than with something new? We haven't done a series before, so I decided that I want to do one. And I was like, what should we do? What should we talk about? What would be a good topic that people would want to tune in for week after week? And then I was like, I know. We're going to talk about the different business formations. Because I'm going to tell you that I get that question a lot. I know it's a good topic because I am constantly asked what business entity is the best or which one should someone choose. And the answer is always the same. Like best is relative to what you want to accomplish. So it really depends. So over the next few weeks in May, we are going to take a business entity and we're going to talk about the pros and cons of each one. You ready? Here we go. Welcome back to the Own Your Genius podcast, where we discuss building businesses, growing brands, and what else? Owning your genius. I'm your host, Attorney LaKanya Murray, owner of Off the Mark IP Solutions. Off the Mark is a boutique intellectual property firm representing innovative entrepreneurs, aka geniuses, who are looking to protect their brand and grow their business with ongoing legal support and business mentorship. We have a good one for you today, so let's get started. Welcome to episode 118 of the Own Your Genius podcast. I'm so excited that we're starting this series this month, my birthday month, when I turn 44. I love May. I love the temperature. It's just right. It's like not too hot, not too cold. The sun is shining, and it really is when I operate in my best. Anywho, we're not here to talk about me. We're here to talk about a business formation. And the one that we're going to start with is sole proprietorship. And so today we're going to answer the following questions. What a sole proprietor is, how do you form a sole proprietorship, what are the benefits of operating as a sole proprietor, and what are some of the consequences for operating as a sole proprietor. A sole proprietor is one person doing business with absolute control over the business operation. And I believe to truly understand what it means to be a sole proprietor, you need a breakdown of that definition. So let's break this definition down. One person, that's a little self-explanatory, right? One person doing business. And this one is a good one because believe it or not, a lot of people don't know what business is. They believe the act of forming the business is a business. However, a business is an activity entered into for profit. And I remember I had this law professor who had like this weird acronym for it. It was like, I don't know. It was just weird. I was like, sir, that's not going to help me remember an activity entered into for a profit. I just got distracted. That was funny. Anywho. So when we talk about an activity, I think we can all kind of understand an activity that's entered into. So whether you're selling a good or providing a service, that is an activity. But let's talk about this for-profit part. Let's just break it down just a little bit more. So for-profit, according to Oxford Dictionary, the definition of for-profit is for financial gain. And specifically, the difference between the amount that's earned and the amount spent in the buying, operating, or producing of something. So how much money you earned subtracted by the money that it took for you to earn this money, basically. And that's the financial gain. And I want to stress that because really that for-profit part is the real difference between a business and a hobby. When you're looking at a business and a hobby, they're going to look at two things. They're going to look at the time and effort that's exerted into making that profit. Are you doing the work that's necessary to have financial gain? Or is this something that you're just doing for fun or one-off? And I don't know why, but for some reason I thought about rent parties. Maybe because today is the first of the month. I don't know. But back in the day, and maybe they still do it today, I don't know because I don't get out very much now. But back in the day, they used to have these rent parties. If you were falling short on your rent, you would invite people over, charge them something to get in. And when everybody left, hopefully you had the money you needed to make your rent, right? And so the question is that a business? Let's check it out. So it was an activity, they threw a party, entered into for profit. And from my standpoint, I would say no. And the reason I would say no is because they said for profit, not for money. So profit is a financial gain. You really entered into this so that you can make your rent, like enough money for your rent because you were falling short on it. But I don't know. That's just me and what I'm thinking. Then you also want to know, if we're talking about is it a business, how much time does it really take to throw a party or to host a party, to get this rent party together? A lot of times those rent parties were short notice because you didn't start off the month knowing you weren't going to make the rent in most cases. Like it was like, oh crap, rent is due in 3 days. Let's throw something together. Let's find a way that we can make this money. So if you're not putting in the time and effort and you're not making a profit, then you don't have a business. You more likely have a hobby or a hustle, right? So what you also want to explore a little bit more right? You can ask some more questions like, is this a regular occurrence? Like, are you constantly throwing these parties for rent? And are you calling a rent party with the intent of making financial gain other than just making money? Like, are you really intent on making a profit versus just having this money for rent? Those are some considerations that you want to think about. And the second thing that we're going to talk about, or the second difference between a hobby and a business, is, are you in fact making a profit? If we go back to our last question, like, are you calling a rent party with the intention of making financial gain? So are you really throwing this rent party, but making profit after profit after profit, right? Because if you are making profit, you have a business and not a hobby. And that's important as we explore the sole proprietorship. I say that, and I wanted to spend some time on profit because I think that they were very intentional when they were coming up with the definition for business, because they could have said an activity entered into to make money. But there's a difference between making money and making a profit. Because when you're talking about making money, you're not taking into account the expenses that it took to produce that good or service. So I think they were very intentional about the words that they chose, which is why when you're trying to decide whether or not you have a business or a hobby, that you have to be intentional too. You have to take into consideration, am I making money or am I making a profit? Right? So now when we're talking about this definition of sole proprietor, we have one person, right, doing business. Now we know what doing business is, with absolute control of those operations. And so absolute control is referring to the ability or the authority to make all the important decisions in that business. Like, you don't have to check with anyone. The buck starts and stops with you. So if you are one person doing business with absolute control, guess what? You are sole proprietor. That's it. Like, it doesn't take anything other than that, no formal documents for you to form this sole proprietor, to form this business. That's it, which makes it like the easiest formation to get started with, and also the cheapest. Like, if you don't have to file paperwork with the state, then you're definitely saving money. Another thing to consider too when we're talking about sole proprietors is that when you're a sole proprietor, your business legal name is your legal name, because you and the business, y'all go together real bad. And so all business that operate as a sole proprietor, your business name is your name. But then you have other business owners that operate as sole proprietors who have DBAs, or they're doing business as, also known as a fictitious name. So for example, Jimmy Kidd owns a pest control company that he calls Jimmy's Critter Control. Jimmy's Critter Control is his DBA, but his business legal name when he's filling out paperwork is Jimmy Kidd. And for a lot of states, you have to, if you're going to operate under a fictitious name, you're going to have to provide written notice, such as an affidavit, or even registering that name as a trade name in the state. But you just have to check. You have to check with your state and see what you have to do, because the rules vary from state to state. So now we know what a sole proprietor is. We know how to form a sole proprietorship. Let's talk about benefits, baby. Like, why would anybody choose to operate as a sole proprietor? Especially today when the internet is like, oh my gosh, LLCs are so great. They will solve world hunger and give world peace and the cure for cancer, all of those things, right? Yeah. Okay. So I have 4 reasons why people choose to operate as a sole proprietor. You ready? Here we go. 1, it's so simple to form. We've already talked about it. Some people just kind of fall into being a sole proprietor. Like, they transition from hobby to business, or they're wanting to make sure that they're actually making a profit before they go to form a formal business entity. So they operate as a sole proprietor. 2, the cost is low. So speaking of wanting to make sure that you're making a profit before you invest more money, like, why spend money forming a business entity if you aren't sure that business is going to make a profit, or that you have what it takes to run that business long term? Because I'll tell you, and I know this from experience, people will be excited. They will invest to start a business and form LLC or a corporation. And when you go to check on them in a year, nothing. So maybe it's okay to start out as a sole proprietor just to make sure that this is something that you really want to do. The third reason is you have all the say. Like, you have all the say in how your business is run. Remember that absolute control? Yeah, that's you. That's you. You got it. You have no board to report to, no partners to check in with, no shareholders to make happy. It's just you and your vision. Whatever you have up here, you can execute without any red tape from any other party other than like the state and the government. Like, you got to be legal and stuff, right? So let's talk about these consequences. Like, why are some reasons that people might not want to operate as a sole proprietor? Reason number 1, you and your business are one. y'all go together real bad. Y'all go together real bad. Like if something happens in your business, you're going to be personally responsible for it. If someone slips and falls in your place, if you're found guilty of intellectual property infringement, your home and other personal property could be on the hook to pay those damages. 2, because of the ease of starting a sole proprietorship. Because of the ease of starting a sole proprietorship, many business owners forget that there's other paperwork required to legally operate their business. So you might start this business, but are you operating legally? You have licenses and permits that are issued from the city and state that may be overlooked, which will result in fines that business owners will have to pay. And that's oftentimes money that a small business owner might not have. 3rd reason you might not want to operate as a sole proprietor. Raising money as a sole proprietor can be difficult, like getting business loans. And even during COVID, when they were giving out, I'm not going to say giving out, when they were offering grants and different programs for small business owners, if you weren't a formal business entity, if you weren't an LLC or a corporation or something of that nature, then you had a hard time getting those funds. So that's number 3. Raising capital can be difficult. Number 4, let me just tell you, self-employment tax is a baby, that $15,000 is not a joke. It's no joke. And if you don't have enough deductions, then that is on you. Trust me, I know. This is before I knew better. Now I have accountants that advise me, and now I don't have to do that. I don't live that life anymore. But if you're a sole proprietor, you're going to live that life. And that is definitely a consequence to running your business as a sole proprietor, in my opinion. So tell me, what do you think about today's podcast? Better yet, tell me, what do you think about this series? Are you excited to learn about the different business entities that are out there? Let me know. Let's discuss it. Tell me in the comments. All right. Let's take this conversation over to the MARKEDlegal community. I want you to share this episode with 3 people and have them meet you there. But you know what to do before you go. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and rate the podcast. Until next week, I want you to keep building your business, growing your brand, and owning your genius.